Farrah. Welcome to my show, Fix Your Reflection First. I have had a wealth of life experiences, both good and bad, like everyone, and the one thing I have learned is that I am wholly responsible for the results. As I have evolved to liking the person I see in the mirror, my life has changed for the better, and that is what I help those that I coach do too. Please tune in every week as I will coach folks, listen to stories of success, and give you the tips and tools I have learned to make sure what you see is something you love and help you fix your reflection first. Welcome to Fix Your Reflection First and Live Your Best Life Ever. I'm your host, Rhonda Farrah, and this is Transformation Talk Radio Network. Our program, Fix Your Reflection First and Live Your Best Life Ever, is dedicated to awakening hearts, minds, and most especially spirit to our innate power from within, our authentic power from within, the power to thrive and not merely survive. Wherever you are in life, if you are not living the life you want, the life you desire, perhaps the life that you dream about, you have come to the right place. So happy that you joined us today as we explore how we may be more mindful and make better choices to living our best life ever. And today we have a special guest, Dr. Sofia Risberg, and welcome, Sofia.
Thank you so much, Rhonda. It is such an honor to be here with you.
Well, we'll continue. We're going to be continuing our conversation from when I was on your podcast.
Thank you.
Okay, let me tell you a little bit about Dr. Sofia. Dr. Sofia Risberg is a former historian who started learning body talk in 2020. After taking several courses, she has been intuitively guided to use that modality as a basis to work primarily with animals to help them find assistance with anxiety, trauma, ancestral patterns, and other issues that affect them. Dr. Sofia has been on a deep spiritual journey since 2009, when her father died, including adopting her spiritual name to uncover the programs and beliefs that she took on that kept her from knowing and embodying her divinity, which we all carry within us. When she's not helping animals, she dives deep into nutrition and explores frequency devices, supplements, and ways to support her body to allow her connection to consciousness to flow more fluidly through her. Once again, welcome, Dr. Sofia.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, you certainly caught my attention with trauma, anxiety, and with a psychology background and a former psychotherapist, trauma in animals, depression in animals, ancestral baggage, so to speak, in animals. Tell us about your little path with spirituality, your big path actually, and how that had you come into working with animals.
Sure. So ever since I was a little kid, I didn't get separation, which is one of the things I've been spending most of my life trying to uncover the illusion of that. When I was, this is one of my first memories, I walked into a gaggle of Canadian geese, and they surrounded me and they let me pet their heads. They felt me feeling them, and we were friends. My parents freaked out completely because like Canadian geese can be aggressive. And so, but I'm like, they're protecting me from my parents. And so after about 5 or 10 minutes, I finally waddled back out and they're like, don't you ever do that again. And I didn't understand why. And so I grew up in Connecticut in the 70s and 80s, and I shut down my spiritual gifts when I was 10 due to a family crisis. Even though I've always been spiritual, I didn't allow myself to develop those gifts from 10 until 40 when my dad died. And so after he died, I actually felt his spirit leave his body and scatter across the universe. And then I realized I didn't know anything. And this was like 3 years after I got my PhD. And so I spent the next 15 years meditating, doing different modalities, working on myself for healing. And then in 2020, I got this call. Like, I knew I was going to be a doctor when I was 10, when all that crisis happened, but I didn't want to cut anyone open. Through receiving body talk sessions, I learned that I could apply that to animals. And so I took 5 classes in the space of a year, and then I was like kicked out of the nest, which is what they do. And I started practicing, and I was blown away by the consciousness of animals and how they come through me. It's a trippy thing, and it's beautiful. So when I started, I was terrified, because when we start something new, we're terrified. But the animals would start coming into my consciousness, and it was like a remembrance of, right, I used to do this as a kid. So what they do is they come to me in a session, and I call on my higher self and their higher selves, and then they walk me through, well, first the body talk system, but in the past few weeks, it's gotten more crazy. I'm doing more things that are intuitively guided through me to help them. One of the most recent ones I've done is a sheep whose right elbow was jammed. And I tuned into her. I didn't even have a picture of her, but I tuned into her energy, because we're all energy. And she told me that her brother died. And so I was guided to look in body talk and find out that trauma of loss is stuck in the elbow. And on the right side, it's the masculine energy. And the vet was going to put her down. Within a week of the session, she was walking again. So, amazing. Yeah, it's incredible. I love it.
It's amazing. It's I mean, so the similarities. I mean, when you talk about separation. So she was separated. She was mourning the loss of her brother, but she couldn't speak that.
Right.
Okay, but you felt that. So she was speaking to you.
Yeah.
And you helped her work through that.
Yeah, I did.
What was that about? How did you help her?
She talked to me. I don't know how to describe it. It's the best. I either channel it or it's telepathic. I'm not sure which, but I connect with that being's essence. And I'm told what to write down into a formula for the healing. And I don't know where I'm going to be guided to, but it's all guided through me. And I'm literally a channel for it. And I connect telepathically with the animal. And it's really fascinating, because I mean, today I heard a piece of land that's been harvested, deforested for 150 years. And I actually tuned into that energy, and I was like, whoa, I can feel the distraught and the trauma of the land. And when we allow ourselves to tune into consciousness, we can hear things that we haven't been taught we can hear.
That body talk. It's interesting that I believe you started that in 2020. Yeah. I called the pandemic, and I called 2020 the year of perfect vision. So you were given this vision to move forward, and you took source up on that. Okay, I'll do this. Yeah. The other interesting thing is to me that you mentioned you grew up in Connecticut. So did I. We were probably traveling in the same circles, because the University of Connecticut at that time, where I attended, was an agricultural college at that time. So that was just on my heart and mind. So I said, let me interject that, because, and so, I mean, you liked animals. You had to like animals when you were growing up. You had animals.
They were my friends. They were always my
Yeah.
friend. I'm an only child, and so I grew up with cats, and the cats would bond with me, and we'd have conversations. I had a cat in high school named Toby, and my first semester back from college, he greeted me at the door, had me pick him up. I laid down on a couch, and he purred me to sleep for 4 hours. He was so happy to see me.
Mhm.
And I just love that
So,
cat. He was my best friend.
so all this was going on, and your parents were, what was happening? Were they noticed?
So,
Did you tell them this or what?
so no. So my dad was very sensitive and intuitive, and he taught me about nature and connecting with animals, but he was emotionally repressed because he was born in the 40s and had to do that whole male 50s and 60s thing where you couldn't actually be a sensitive male back in the day. And mom is an incredibly talented musician who is also not diagnosed, but it feels like she's manic depressive and bipolar. So,
Yes.
and I had one grandparent on each side get institutionalized for depression. So I like some part of me was like, I can't talk about this because they're going to institutionalize me. So
Right. Yeah.
So I just shut myself down. I mean, it never really shut down, but like managing life after my grandfather died, which created a lot of tumult in the family, was too much for me to balance the spirituality and my family.
Mm.
So, but I always like when I say Toby was my best friend, he really was my best friend.
I always say it's not so important what other people think of us, it's what we think of ourselves. And
Hmm.
you were comfortable with all of this,
Yeah.
that Toby was your
I,
friend
I
and
I was
that,
not comfortable trying to fit into society, that's for sure.
right. Okay. What about your friends? Did your friends know that, Toby was your best friend or?
They kind of thought I was weird. I mean, I was kind to everybody. I never, but like I spent most of my time at home, when I wasn't in school in the evenings, and Toby was my friend. So, I
Okay.
mean, I spent time with my other friends, but they weren't the same.
So you knew there was a connection. The
Right.
beginning with Toby, maybe the geese too, and it was, and it just, you went with it.
Oh, yeah,
Even,
it never occurred to me not to. It was just
okay.
so natural to me. It was like, of course, any animal that comes into my life is going to be my friend. And I had a friend a couple months ago ask me if I'd ever be interested in helping a crocodile, and I got excited because I don't want to be near the crocodile, but like to be able to help to tap into that consciousness and
Right.
help someone with trauma. Yes, please let me help them do that because there is no like, yes, the crocodile has bigger teeth. It's still, ancient energy, but if it's traumatized, it doesn't matter.
I have a question about, and you've probably heard this before, they have pet psychologists.
Mhm.
What is different with respect to what you do?
I get to the root cause. So
Okay.
if there's a trauma an animal has they have anxiety, it's probably multiple lifetimes, it's probably ancestral.
Mm.
Um, there's a codependent pattern within the human and the animal that a lot of animals have asked me to uh, deactivate
Mm-hmm.
um, because what's happened in our society is animals have taken on the trauma and the anxiety of the humans, and they end up like getting diseases and dying from it. If we separate that codependency, then the animals can thrive and the human gets to do their own inner work and not put it on the animal, or the animal won't take
Much
it
the
on anymore.
much the same with human to human.
Hmm. Hmm.
That's that's what's happening. So
Yeah.
this is a this is to me this is a specialty that you deal with the emotions of animals and
Yeah.
animals seemingly in distress
Hmm.
for one reason or another.
Yeah.
So how do you, I mean, do you connect with veterinarians, or who do you connect with to
It's,
help these
it's
animals?
pretty much word of mouth.
Mhm.
I have reached out to veterinarians and they kind of look at me like, yeah, no, that's not going to work for me. Because what I can't say I have done anything because it's not me. It's my openness to being able to serve. Um,
Mhm.
through me, some vaccines have been deactivated. Through me, I've had animals deactivate like a terrier gene from 20 generations because the terrier that I worked on was sick of the bounciness of being a terrier. I was like, can we do something about that? I'm like, okay, sure. I don't know. I don't know because it's not me, but I am that conduit. And so it really is getting down to the root issues. It's not masking it with a medication. It's not masking it with um, anything that's typical in allopathic medicine. It's like really going down as deep as I can or as deep as it wants to go into just removing that.
Okay. Do you, the, so the body talk modality, is that a talk strictly, or do you introduce supplements and other things there?
Well, first I'll break it down. It's chiropractic kinesiology, Chinese traditional medicine, Ayurvedic, um, Reiki, and a little Aboriginal Australian energy to all combined into this one system. So the founder was most of those things, and he was guided to co-create this with Source. And so all of these different modalities come in. If there is a supplement that needs to come through, yes, that will come through. With humans, it's usually drinking more water and grounding often. But animals ground most of the time. So it's usually like if there's something with glyphosate, which is rampant in their food. I sell Purine products, and one of them is Epigenius for dogs and Epigenius for cats, and it helps get rid of the glyphosate.
Okay. Does this work on humans too?
Oh yeah, it does. It's just that the animals have asked me to work with them because there's so many people that work with humans and not as many
Right.
people work with animals. So in this way,
That's what I was going to say. This is different
yeah,
than your traditional emotional, psychological, psychotherapeutic with
yeah,
humans.
yeah.
Um, what is the hardest animal you've worked with? I mean, by they're reluctant.
It's not so much reluctance. The I've worked on two animals that have died on me because their chi was low, and the humans waited until they'd gone through. One called me while the dog was on surgery, in surgery, and dying. She's like, "Will you help me now?" And I'm like, "6 months ago, I could have done a lot more,
Mhm.
but you waited because now I'm like the Obi-Wan, and
Yeah.
I haven't figured out yet how to regenerate life force because I haven't figured that out." But it's really hard when I can feel that the animal wanted to work with me 6 months ago and the human wasn't and knew about me and the human didn't know. So that's really
What,
hard. And I can't really do much.
do you get attached to animals when you're working with them, or is it that you can maintain that line?
I have a whole practice of detaching myself at the end at the beginning of attaching and detaching myself in my sessions so I don't get attached. That said, when I hear the outcome, like that the sheep the human sent me a video of the sheep like you know walking again, I was in tears because it just made me so
Right.
happy. But I don't have attachment like in terms of am I going to save all the animals in the world? I can't. Um, if someone dies, I feel sad. Like I had a horse die on me this week because she drowned herself, which is really
Oh my
sad, and I cried. Um, and I still have to be sovereign. So I'll allow
God.
myself to feel the emotions and process them, but then I'll tune in and make sure that I'm feeling myself and not someone else.
Okay. Um, On a scale from 1 to 10, I already know the answer to this. How excited are you to do this with animals?
Definitely a 10. I get so giddy. I'm so
Mhm.
excited because it's so cool to talk to animals. It's so cool to help them. It's so cool to see how they integrate it. It really is.
What was that? Was it Dr. Doolittle? If the animals could talk, or what? What was the? I'm trying to
Yeah,
remember what it was.
yeah. It's Dr.
This is very,
Dolittle.
but they can talk.
Oh, they
It's
totally can. Just
who
not,
can
it's not in the ways we want them to.
right?
They're not going to like have a sentence come out of their mouths yet, at least that I think of. But they're open. Like trees are open, rocks are open, the land's open, everything's open for us to hear it. We just have to slow down
Mhm.
and listen. So I'm not special, I'm just open.
My sense is that you're open to animals and they can communicate with you and you with them because you have gone within
Yep.
and done that inner work.
A lot.
However that, yeah, however that, came about. You were on your spiritual journey maybe before you knew you were spiritual.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
remember
I'm
you
sure
asked
I have been.
me that question. Yeah. And so how was your background growing up? Were Was it a religious background?
I grew up in a Protestant church. My mom was the organist. My grandpa was the deacon or a deacon. My grandma ran the cradle roll. My dad was a Sunday school teacher. And I was the only child for the first 6 years in the church.
Wow.
So, um, yeah, it was kind of intense, but it was Protestant. So, like, after my grandfather died, I wanted to know how to pray. I'm 10 years old. I like want to connect with him. And the minister said, well, you pray. I'm like, not helpful.
Mhm.
Because like I didn't know, it's the emotional connection and actually feeling the feelings. And, Greg Braden talks about that. And I didn't know that. So that's part of why I shut down because I'm like, I need some way to communicate and I don't know how. And nobody else seems to either. So I went through it. But it didn't really have a profound effect. I mean, I knew there was something way more than what the church was teaching me, but I mean, other than Joseph Campbell talking about the power of myth when I was 14, I didn't really have much of an understanding. So,
But that was your conduit there. That we're having early training with Source.
oh
The
yeah.
Source was getting your attention one way or another.
Source has always been trying to get my attention, and when I ignore my intuition, it's a thing.
Talk talk to us about, I think you phrase it as the illusion of separation.
Yeah. So we've been born into a world where there's duality, right? There's the white and the black. Well, they're all one. And I see it through the lens of, whenever I see an animal, verbally, I communicate with it as it is a sentient being. I ask permission before I do sessions. I honor it as a being. It's not, I'm not above it. I am the same as it. Like I don't have any other way to describe it, but my car actually talks to me. Because on a quantum level, it's the same as me. It looks different than me. It seems like it's different, but it's not. It's just a different arrangement of atoms at a subatomic level coming into form. And
Mhm.
the more I do this work, the more I realize that I'm just a fragment of the whole. And so the more and I got a whole PhD trying to understand how separations form. So like it's been a quest to like, why does this exist? And what I've learned is it's an illusion because you're not separate from me. You're in a different body, but you're not separate. At a core level, we're the same. And so
That's right.
breaking down that illusion of perception is how we can remember that unity consciousness, that divine love, that Christ consciousness within.
Yeah. The collective consciousness. Yeah, that's it. And that's collective. We're pulling everyone together. That's it. Because we are all one when it comes right down to it. And source is all there is. So we're source.
Yep.
So that's why there is a connection rather than a separateness.
Mm-hmm.
What advice could you give to people that think they have, distraught, unhappy, let's put it that way, animals?
Well, the first thing I do is ask myself if I'm contributing to that. Like, where is it within me if I'm feeling any trauma or anxiety? The second thing is it's a basic intro. Put your hands on your heart and ask your body to tell you what a yes feels like. Wait. And then ask your body what a no feels like. Then thank your body. And then you can ask your body yes or no questions about your animal. And that's a very easy intro on how to start tuning in. Like, hey, does my dog need something? And then you'll feel a yes or a no. So, yeah.
How do our listeners and viewers get a hold of you, Dr. Sofia?
The easiest way is on heal.me/Sofia-Risberg, and it's SOFIA-RISBERG.
And that will be in our program description as well for listeners and viewers to contact Dr. Sofia. This was fascinating. I had fun. This is
Thank
great.
you. Thank
and you
you
do a valuable service, not only to the animals, but to the humans as well.
Thank you.
Well, as we end our show today, understand that regardless of any struggles or challenges, any life changes you are facing, any life changes your animals are facing, we have the opportunity, we have the choice to let all of that serve us rather than anything less. So whatever tunnel you happen to be traveling down, it is not a train. That light is not a train at the end. That light is the guidance, it's the way, it's the opportunity to move forward and be the best version of yourself. So thank you for joining us. Thank you, Dr. Sofia. Always a pleasure.
Thank you.
And I'm Rhonda Farrah, and you have been listening to Transformation Talk Radio. So until next time, have a beautiful day. And while you're having a beautiful day every day, treat life as if it were ice cream and enjoy it before it melts. I'm Rhonda Farrah, and you have been listening to Fix Your Reflection First. Tune into Transformation Talk Radio every first and third Monday at 3 p.m. Pacific Time for success stories of folks I have coached. I will be sharing more of my tips and tools that you can use to love the person you see in the mirror and how to fix your reflection first. Live your best life ever by choosing to be bold and courageous, even if it means getting out of your comfort zone. To connect with me, visit helpmerhondanow.com.